Hi, and welcome back to Tuntum Network. I'm Cyrus. I did this podcast on Brics just a month or so ago, and I see the viewership, and I'm like, wow, people are now so interested in things that are happening around the world. The politics are taking shape, and when it gets to Africa, I see how people are more keen and interested, and that gets me excited. Well, it's happening again. It's happening again. Brics are meeting again, and I want to share that with you. Let's go. So from the 24th to 26th of April this year, there was a meeting in South Africa, in Cape Town. But this was on the Deputy Ministers of Brics Nations meeting. And they talked about so many things, including the situation in Yemen, Lebanon, the Western Sahara, the Gulf countries, and all that. But the bigger one is yet to happen, which is in August of this year, where the presidents of the BRICS nations will meet again in South Africa, in Cape Town. And that is where the real story is. And I'm taking you there. Well, if this is your first time watching this podcast, we are so happy to have you. On this platform, we talk about things that are related to the continent of Africa. We talk about issues and give our opinions, and we do our research before we do that. So if you have similar interest or passion concerning this continent and its people, we encourage you to subscribe and be a part of this. Now, I don't want to delve too much into the meeting that just went on. No, where the deputy ministers of BRICS met. That is not going to be my focus for today. Because prior to this, there was a meeting on the 19th to 20th of March this year, where 40 heads of states from Africa were invited to the parliament of Russia, where they met Putin. Yeah. And they are expected to meet President Putin again in July, I think 27th to 28th of this year. And I didn't have any problem with that until when I saw all these 40 heads of state go meet one president. That is where I had an issue with. Because in my mind, I thought perhaps the president of AU or the leader of AU, the chairman of AU, could have represented Africa on that stage. And President of Kenya agrees with me on this. Take a look at this.
We have, at least on the market issue, we have put that together. There is a debate that is going to evolve. Like, for example, we have also decided that it will not going to be business as usual. We have these meetings, Africa, US meeting, Africa, Europe, Africa, Turkey, Africa,
India.
Now we are waiting for, there is another one, Africa, Russia.
And Africa, Japan.
And Africa, Japan. We have made the decision that it is not intelligent for 54 of us to go and sit before one gentleman from another place. And
now, let's get to the real meat of today's podcast, shall we? Where the meeting, the main meeting happening in August, where the presidents will be coming, is happening in Cape Town, South Africa. President Ramaphosa will be hosting. President Modi of India is coming. President Lula da Silva will be coming. President Xi Jinping of China will be represented. And the big dog himself, President Putin, will be coming. But at the same time, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, is after Putin to arrest him. How is this going to play out? Let me read the charges that have been laid against President Putin. Let me read it for you to look at this. So President Putin is wanted by the ICC, the International Criminal Court in Hague, in Holland, on allegations of his role in war crimes in occupied regions. Putin is accused of being responsible for the deportation of children from Ukraine into Russia. And here we are, where President Putin is coming. At the same time also, the government of South Africa has issued a diplomatic immunity to all these presidents that will be represented. I am wondering how this is going to happen. Is the ICC going to fly military or police to come arrest Putin whilst he's on his trip to South Africa? What is going to happen? Is Putin indeed going to come? This is the dilemma. One interesting part of all this is this. The ANC party's Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, he gave an interview on BBC Hard Talk in connection to all this happening. I want you to take a look at this. Very interesting stuff happening.
South Africa is a treaty member of the International Criminal Court. If Putin comes here in August as planned, your government will be obliged to arrest him. As head of the ANC, do you believe your government should and indeed will arrest Vladimir Putin?
If it was according to the ANC, we will want President Putin to be here even tomorrow.
You would?
To come to our country. But
you would welcome Vladimir Putin here right now?
Of course we will welcome.
A man who is being investigated for war crimes by the International Criminal Court.
We will welcome him to come here as part and parcel of Brics, but we know that we are constrained by the ICC in terms of doing that. Putin is a head of state. Do you think that a head of state can just be arrested anywhere? How many crimes have your country committed in Iraq? How many crimes have everyone else who's so vocal today committed in Iraq and Afghanistan? Have you arrested them? You
know the impact that this stand of yours...
You're making a lot of noise about Putin instead of working for peace between Ukraine and Russia, and you failed to resolve the war. Where are the weapons of mass destruction? Tony Blair went to Iraq and claimed that there are weapons of mass destruction. Did you see anybody standing against that in the United Kingdom and Britain? More than millions of people have died in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are no weapons of mass destruction. We know what the war is about.
Mr. Secretary General,
between Russia and Ukraine. We want peace. That's what is important, so that the world can thrive. And organs and institutions of the world that institute world peace must not be conspicuous by their silence in deciding decisively.
We don't have much time left. I want to bring it back to...
This video clearly indicates that the ruling government is so much in support of what the president is doing. And then you go on to the next person, who is Julius Malema, the president of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters in South Africa. And he also gives this interview. Take a look at this.
South Africa right now calls itself non-aligned.
In the context of the war, but these are two different things. South Africa is an ally of Russia. Now, the second question is, where does South Africa stand on the war? It says, I'm a non-aligned in relation to war, but Russia remains South Africa's friend. So we cannot create confusion around there. Don't create an impression that it is Malema who's going to come and create an alliance with Russia.
But there are some very specific...
Actually, I will go beyond that. I will go beyond the friendship with Russia, and in the war, I will align with Russia, and I will even supply the weapons to Russia. Because Russia is in a war with imperialism, and any agenda that seeks to push back imperialist agendas is well within the policies of the EFF.
ACC, Putin is welcomed here, and no one is going to arrest Putin. If needs be, we'll go and fetch Putin from the airport to his meeting. He will finish all his meetings. We'll take him back to the airport. We're not going to be told by these hypocrites of the International Criminal Court, who know the real violators of human rights, who know the murderers of this world. That former Prime Minister of Tony Blair admitted that they made a horrible mistake when it comes to Saddam Hussein. They've not been charged today. Bush is still there. They've not been charged till to date.
So in watching this interview by Julius Malema, who is the president of the EFF, to me, which is the most influential, opposition party in South Africa, you see that the ruling government and EFF are totally in support of what is happening. But the question will be, what will be the fate of the ICC? What will be the plan, the next move of the USA and its allies in Europe? These are genuine questions which I wish I had answers before the time. Remember, I told you this in the first podcast I did on this subject, that the main reason for the Brics is to replace the US dollar as the world's currency for trade, international trade, with a different currency or a different means of doing business. And if this should happen, if Putin should come, if all these 5 presidents from the BRIC nations should meet in August and everything should go accordingly to their plan, ladies and gentlemen, quickly there is going to be a lot of changes in the world as we know it. The US dollar as we have known it may sooner than later lose a lot of its power and leverage on the continents that are affected by these nations. Trust me. Imagine if you have to do business with China or Russia or India, and you are required to bring another currency outside of the US dollar. How is it going to look like? And this is what I'm thinking. If these 5 countries get together in August and they happen to come up with a single currency and name it, for instance, Brics, and then Brics becomes the new currency being used to trade among these 5 countries, any country outside of the Brics who wants to do business with Brics countries will now have to go get the Brics currency in order to trade with them. And guess what is happening in Africa already? A lot of businesses are running with Chinese products, Indian products. China and India are already in control of most of the merchants that are happening here. What does that also mean? It means that everybody in Africa who is doing business with China and India and Russia and Brazil will now have to move away from the US dollar, go get the Brics, which I gave as, for instance, if they gave that name to it, before they can trade with any country in the BRICS nations. This will be very, very interesting. 2023 will mean a lot. And 2024 may be totally different from what we know now. Get prepared. And don't get me wrong. I have no special interest or whatever outside of this particular interest where I want Africa to win. I want Africa to do business with anybody Africa wants to do business with. Period. Nothing more, nothing less. Have you ever considered this? Why is your currency, your local currency in your country, so smaller compared to the US dollar? Take, for instance, Ghana. I need about 12 Ghana cedis in order to get $1 US. Have you thought about this? What are the factors that determine how much of US dollar you get for your own currency? So imagine if Brics becomes a real currency, which is really backed by gold, unlike the US dollar, which is backed by nothing. And you have to trade with them. I mean, the US dollar could easily slip to become the currency you have to use when you have to deal with the West. And these things are really likely to happen in our lifetime. I'm talking about this year, next year, not long from now. This is my little piece of advice to every African businessman or woman out there. The status quo as we know it is about to change. And this comes with a lot of different opportunities. So let us all keep our eyes open so that we can grab it when it happens. We have done business with the West for centuries and we are still poor. I said this the other time and I'm saying it again. So let's try new things. Let's come together in smaller groups in regions and make this change beneficial to our people, because our people need to see progress. We need to see development in Africa. We need to see a change in Africa. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have to. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Until I come your way again, God bless you. Stay alive, and it's bye-bye for now.